Yesterday on Squawk Box, Boeing's chairman said the company's board believes CEO Dennis Muilenburg has done everything right since the loss of the two 737 MAX planes. Chairman Dave Calhoun told us Muilenburg suggested himself that he take a pay cut.
Dennis called me Saturday morning, 10 o'clock, with the purpose of suggesting that he not take any compensation for 2019 as in the form of bonuses, which is, of course, most of your compensation. It came in two fronts. One, no long-term bonus, and three, no consideration for equity grants until the MAX in its entirety is back in the air and flying safely. As you know, MAX in its entirety takes us through all of the next calendar year.
All right, joining us now on the Squawk line for reaction to our interview, consumer advocate Ralph Nader. He lost his grandniece in the Ethiopian Air crash. Mr. Nader, it's great to have you on again. And usually we have some good luck with our phone connection. Hopefully that'll be the case again. Let me start by just asking you. The Chairman Dave Calhoun made the point that it would be tough to change CEOs right now because of, I guess, Mr. Muilenburg's knowledge of everything that's happened and what needs to be done to get the plane back in the air, and because he's an aerospace engineer, and that might be helpful in terms of some of the decisions being made. Do you think that Mr. Muilenburg is the right person to get this done, Ralph?
No, of course not, Joe. He was deep in the decision-making that led to the deaths of 346 people in Indonesia and Ethiopia, number one. Second, I think some members of Congress who demanded that he resign made the right point. He's too implicated. He's already refusing to support any legislation. He took a pass on that during the hearings. He's refusing to require simulator training, as Captain Sullenberger said in testimony before the House in June, for the pilots with this new so-called revised software fix for a hardware defect. He won't recognize that the problem started with the larger engines over a lower fuselage, a 50-year-old fuselage that increased the prone to stalling by the 737 MAX. I mean, he hasn't changed anything, and he's repressed a lot of dissent, technical dissent. He's a charter member of the Boeing marketeers who overruled the Boeing engineers. And David Calhoun, he's been there since 2009. The board is heavily private venture capital people, plus some trophy candidates on the board, former ambassadors. No, the whole system at the top of Boeing is now not good for the future of Boeing, because they can't admit that they have to change things fundamentally, and that the FAA needs stronger budgets, stronger regulatory authority for the traveling public, and greater technical staff. So he's blocking that as well. And they're continuing to give campaign cash to over 300 members of Congress, including the key transportation committees. It's not a good scene. You need a new team. People in the FAA need to be fired too, especially Elwell and El Bahrami. They were in on this whole massive delegation or abdication of certification authority to the Boeing people.
What if you were, if we made you chairman of the board of Boeing right now, Ralph? Would you want to get the 737 MAX back into the air? And what would you need to feel comfortable to try to recertify that? What would you want done if you were running things? And would you want it to go back in the air? I mean, are you pulling for Boeing eventually get the planes back up and manufacture and go back to business as usual?
Well, there are about 400 of these planes in the hands of airlines, domestic and foreign. There are 5,000 orders. So you don't want to go in the wrong direction here and put up a flawed plane. So what Boeing really should do, number one, is make public its technical details and its fixes. Right now, it's colluding literally with the FAA, and the FAA likes this secrecy. And as the new Flyers writes by Paul Hudson just out, this report. People can get it, flyersrights.org, on the 737 MAX debacle. Very specific recommendations that Boeing and the FAA in the next 10 days must release the technical details of Boeing's proposed fixes to outside experts and the public for review and critique with a 60-day public comment period. So if they want to get reassurance, Boeing that is, they better put this stuff out and not try to do it in secret, which has been their tradition. The second thing is they've got to deal with the airframe problem. The problem didn't start with the software fix, which has its own problems, Joe. The problem started with the larger engines over a lower fuselage that increased the prone-to-stall problem of the 737 MAX, which led to the crashes. And in the 737-300, the old FAA said to Boeing, you got a problem, Boeing, you got to fix the airframe. Today, the FAA is not saying you got a problem with the airframe and the overloaded engines, and you got to fix it. They're trying to fix it with a flawed, complicated software called MCAS.
We all want to get to the same place, and I think if we all, your view and others, and maybe everything will end up hopefully improved and safer down the road with all this input. Ralph Nader, we appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay.